Hey, kia ora, Helen Brahms here, coming live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you're all having a super fantastic, sparkling, magical Monday. Oh, I have so much to tell you. But first of all, Magic Monday is all about creating the spark that's going to carry you through the week. So what sort of sparks have you been creating today to help you accomplish your goals and your tasks for the week? I haven't done much, to be honest. It's been go from first thing this morning up until just a few minutes ago, and I still have some work I need to go and complete when I'm done with this live before we go for our walk, because it's like 105 outside. That's like 41 degrees centigrade for my metric people. Yes, I haven't had much of a chance to think about my sparks for the week. I do have an interview tomorrow. I have I have a connection tomorrow. I have an interview tomorrow. Wednesday, I have another one of the Amazon Explores, which I will tell you about shortly in a few minutes. Let's see, what else have I got on there? Then on Friday, I have a run through for a presentation that I'm doing. And then on Saturday, I have got another one of the Amazon Explores, which is all about Argentine homemade ice cream. So I'm looking forward to that. But what happened last night? Oh, I have to tell you, last night was awesome. I got to do the Amazon Explore. What was it? Explore Melbourne Laneways. That was amazing. I paid for a group price to be part of a group. I was the only person on there. Well, this is even better. I get one-on-one with, and my guide was Tristan, and he was awesome. And so I told him that. He said, "Have you ever been to Melbourne?" I said, "Actually, yes, I have." I said, "But it was like 94 or 95 when I was last there. I was actually here for 3 weeks for work." And I said, "But the cool part was I was working New Zealand hours, which meant that I finished at like 2:00 in the afternoon. I got back to my hotel, which was in the central business district of Melbourne, around 3:00, because I have to leave the office, which was on the other side of the river, walk all the way to the train station to get on the tram. And at the time, they had one tram that went around the outskirts of the central business district that was free, and it happened to have a stop at the end of my street. And then I'd walk half a block down to my hotel, and it would take me about an hour from walking from the office up to the train station, catching this tram, and then getting off. Once I got on the tram, I was like 15 minutes from the hotel, but it took me the rest of the time to walk, because it was a good couple of miles to get to the train station. And so he was like, "Oh, awesome." And I says, "Yeah." And I said, I was on Little Burke Street, about a block, on half a block north of the entry into Chinatown, and right there in the theatre district. And he said, "Oh yeah." So he kind of knew where I was. But then we started this tour. It was amazing. He took me down these laneways. Some of the laneways I actually recognized. And I go, "Well, hang on, that looks a little different." And I said, "This is and partway through I said to him, "This is kind of weird." He goes, "What's this?" I said, "I don't know if this is going to make sense. It all feels familiar. It all looks familiar, but at the same time, it's very different." And he's like, "I get that. Because when you've been to somewhere, there's a lot of familiarity about it, but you can also sense the difference and see the difference." And I learned so much about Melbourne and how much it has changed since I was last there. I can't wait to get back. We went down these laneways. There was amazing graffiti artists that had done these gorgeous murals, paintings, from little ones to big tall ones that went like several stories. We even came across one, and it wasn't a graffiti artist, but what they had done is they had this one wall in this one lane, and laneways are alleys, for those of you who don't know what a laneway is. And in this one laneway, they had all of these different tiles, all different types and shapes and sizes, and all different drawings and everything on it. And the people who had created those tiles were descendants of the Australian Anzacs from 1915. And if you don't know about the Anzac, 25th of April 1915 is when the Anzacs, which is the Australia New Zealand Army Corps, invaded Gallipoli. And they had an 8-month-long battle that ended up basically being a draw. There was a lot of lives lost on both sides. And that was back in 1915. And ever since then, Anzacs now become more of a memorial day for Australia and New Zealand. But they had descendants from the Anzacs actually create these tiles as a memorial to their ancestors. I thought that was so, the genealogist in me was going, yes, I love this. The travel professional in me was going, this is so cool because nobody would know to go look at this. This is awesome for travelers. It's off the beaten path. Nobody would think to look at this. So, all aspects of me was sort of like going, yay, this is amazing. And there were some really cool little tiles in there and everything else. And so it was a lot of fun. Like I said, it was just one-on-one. We basically just had this conversation. He would show me all the bits and pieces. I found out some very interesting things about Melbourne that they have been doing since I was there back in the 90s. And things like they are creating microclimates around the city to help keep the city cooler in the summertime. And they're making up they've got all this greenery growing in Melbourne, and in certain areas they'll have like purposely planted trees or gardens, and they're creating these microclimates to help keep the city cool. And they have worked out this irrigation system that goes through the whole city that can water all of these plants and everything. That is so cool. You go down Laneways and there's these beautiful window boxes hanging out off the windows. There's ivy growing up the sides of buildings. There's trees. There's potted plants all over the place. One of my favorites was we came out of one of the laneways onto the street there, and he was telling me, and he pulls up this map and he goes, all of those little dots on the map. I go, yeah. He goes, they're all trees. I'm like, you have a map of trees? He says, yeah, we have a map of trees. And every tree has an email. I'm like, wait, what? Every tree in Melbourne in the Central Business District has an email. So that if something should happen, like if a branch should break off or anything should happen to the tree, you just send an email into the tree. You send an email to the tree, and they know exactly where to go, exactly what needs to be done, and everything like that. I thought, that is so cool. And then he's turning around and saying, but then it kind of took on a life of its own, all these emails, and people who had been visiting Melbourne and stuff would start emailing their favorite trees and with these stories and everything else, and telling about their trips and just emailing for the fun of it. They actually the Melbourne City Council actually had to hire somebody to respond to all of these emails that were coming in for the trees. So they had to hire somebody to be a tree and respond to all of these emails. I thought that is such a cool, unique way to engage your visitors to your city, is to have trees that have email addresses. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. And these microclimate things, bringing green into a city, yeah. And then you'll show me the top. He'd tilt the camera up so you could see greenery coming off the tops of some of the rooftops, and these were rooftop gardens and everything. But these laneways had changed, and there was one laneway that used to have motorcycles and stuff down, and when he was talking about the motorcycles, I said, I actually remember that. And he goes, yeah, and now it's all these cute little cafes and tchotchke stores and things like that, but all arts and crafts and things. And then he showed me this. He was walking down this one street, which is close to where the big major shopping centre is, and it's this big mall there. And I said, "Is that the mall that has the shot tower in it?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I said, "Yeah, it's got the glass cone that looks like an upside down ice cream cone that it's all made of glass that sticks out from the roof of the thing. And inside that is a shot tower. And the shot tower is what they used to do with the shot tower." Is they would actually start with molten lead at the top and drop it as drops. And by the time it hit the floor, they were perfectly formed balls that would go into the into the shells for shotguns. So that's what's called a shot tower. And that one there, if I remember correctly, it is not its original place. I think they moved that from somewhere else to put it there. And then I said, it's the big stopwatch still there, because they used to have this, and they had this big stopwatch that was actually, it was a pocket watch, not a stopwatch, a pocket watch. And on the hour, the bottom of it would come down, and there'll be like this 5-minute animation thing going on, and then the bottom piece would go back up into the watch. He goes, yeah, it's kind of still there, but the store that owned it moved out and took some of the pieces with it or something like that. So I was like, that's a shame, because it was a really cool feature to go in there and see. So it was really cool to be able to talk to him and that, and he was talking about all the different restaurants. I says, yeah, I remember that. I said, I was there for 3 weeks. I never ate in the same restaurant twice. I said I would just get out once I got back to the hotel. after work, I would get changed, and then I would just put my walking shoes on and go walking around the city, and be back by a decent enough time to get to bed, because I had to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning because I got picked up at 4:30 to go to work, because we started work at 5 o'clock. And I said, so I couldn't have too many late nights. I said, but I always remember walking around, and I said I could walk. I said I had dinner one night in Chinatown, went down to Koreatown, had dinner there one night, went one other area, which was Little Greek, another area was Little Italy. I said there were so many eating places. He says, yeah, we've added a few more restaurants since then. There's got to be at least 150 more since you were here. And I went, oh, we'll have to stay a lot longer then. But it was just really cool, and just going around and seeing some of the familiar sights and things. And then he showed me this window that had all these used cameras lined up along the windowsill inside the store. And it wasn't till later on after the thing that I actually thought, I actually remember that store. But this store it sells used cameras. It's open for 1 hour a day. It is owned by an elderly couple, and they open for 1 hour a day, and you never know what hour that is going to be. But you get the best deals on used cameras at this place. And you get the best used cameras with the best deals if you can get there in that hour that they're open. But they're only open 1 hour a day, and you never know what hour that is going to be because it changes from day to day. But it's an elderly couple that runs this place, and they've been doing it for years. And afterwards, I was sort of like, that camera place kept coming up in my mind. I go, I actually remember walking past that. I don't remember if I was seeing hours on there, but I remember walking past that store. So I don't know how long they've been doing the 1 hour thing, but yeah, they only open for an hour a day, and you never know what hour it's going to be. Well, that's cool. That's pretty cool. But it's the best place to get used cameras. Great prices, great cameras. So if you're ever in Melbourne and you're looking for a used camera, that's the place to go. I just can't tell you what their opening hours are. It's an hour a day. So, but we did at one point, around that time is when we lost the connectivity. And I'm not sure if it was on my end or on his end, but it took us about 5 minutes to get back connected with each other again. So I had made sure that I made sure that every app on my computer was closed down except Chrome. And I had every tab closed down except for the one that I needed to connect with him. So there was no background. So I made sure there was no background programs running, just because I wanted to make sure we kept up the connectivity. So if you are watching any of these, shut everything down on your computer with the exception of the one browser that you are using with that one tab open. Have nothing else open that could be running processes in the background. Shut them all down. Anything that could interfere with your network, shut it down. But it was really good. We had great conversations, and I was talking about. I said to him, I says, no, I can't remember the hotel. I know kind of where it is. I said I could walk you there, but I couldn't tell you the street names to get there. But it's on the 23rd floor, and I was telling him about the men's bathroom and having that beautiful view over the river. He says, yeah, they built another tower in the way. He says, you can still kind of see the park from there, but there's now this big tower in the way. I said, well, that's unfortunate. But yeah, when I was there, my friend who was a New Zealander and who I was handing everything over to, she took me up into like the 23rd floor of this hotel, and she says, now go knock on. She says, go into the men's room. I'm like, why? She says, just go into the men's room. I'm like, are you sure? And she's like, yes. I open up the first door, and then there's a second door. Pound on that and go, housekeeping. And there's nobody on the floor, right? And so I opened up the door, and I yelled out again, said, housekeeping. Nothing. And I went in, and there was these floor-to-ceiling windows that had this incredible view out over the city and into the park. And there's this big, huge park with the river winding down the side of it and everything else. It was a fantastic view. And then there's this line of urinals along the window. So floor-to-ceiling windows with a line of urinals. So I wonder if they've done something with the window, because I don't know if you could see in from the outside, but they may have wanted. I don't know if they've changed that or anything else, or put up some privacy barriers or something, because if you're in that office building directly opposite now, you might get some views that you didn't expect to see if they haven't done anything with the windows in that bathroom. But he says, oh yeah, it's still there. It's just now got a big skyscraper in front of it now. But it was well worth the time to do that. It brought back a lot of memories about my time in Melbourne. And we talked about the theatre district. And when he pulled up one of the maps, I said, oh, that's where my hotel is. He goes, where's that? I said, at the back, on Little Brick Street, on the back side of the Princess Theatre. Because I always remembered walking out the door, and there were the exit doors for the Princess Theatre right across the road. And he said, like, oh, you're up that end. And I said, yeah. And I said, the tram used to stop at the end of the street there, and I'd just walk half a block down to the hotel. And he said, like, oh. He said, well, he said, if you do, he said, we're not going to get anywhere near there today. He said, but we do have a tour that's called Crime and Debauchery that actually goes up in that area. And so I went and looked it up, and I thought, I'm going to do that because I love those stories, the seedy side of things, the mysteries, the spy stories, all that sort of stuff just fascinates me. But I'm also thinking too, from the genealogy perspective of, you may know somebody who's in that story. You may be related to somebody that's mentioned in that story. You never know. And so I was like, oh, I've got to go do this. Now this one here, the Crime and Debauchery one for Melbourne, is a one-on-one only, because it includes personal shopping. Anything that includes shopping, it is one-on-one only. So it's a little more expensive. This one's $49. But you get to go into some places and you get to order the stuff. And when you order anything from the stores that you go into, it is billed to your Amazon account. So you don't have to give any credit card information over the thing or anything. It is all billed to your Amazon account. So I love that. And then they ship it to you. So I'm sort of like, oh, this is going to be fun. So I'm doing that one on Wednesday evening at 5:15 Pacific time. I'm going to go do Crime and Debauchery, and I may end up with Tristan again as my guide, because he said that's one of the tours he loves doing, but there's another couple of people in the same company that he works for that do that one as well. So we're kind of I'm hoping that he's going to be the one that's on Wednesday, because I know he'll do a little detour to show me the hotel, because I'll be able to I can now tell him the name of the hotel, because I actually went and looked it up, where I was staying and everything else. And but he knows where it is now, because I told him it's the back side of the Princess Theatre. But yeah, that was really cool. So signed up for Crime and Debauchery. This has been my first time doing one that has a shopping segment in it, so I'll be able to tell you what that experience is like as well. And then of course got the ice cream one coming up on Saturday. I don't know which one I'm more excited about, Crime and Debauchery or ice cream. Neither of them have chocolate. Oh, actually, no, the ice cream has chocolate chips in it. That's right, because I got to get chocolate chips for that, along with my caramel topping and my cream and my whole milk. So, yes, that one has chocolate in it. But so I'm kind of excited about that one. So that was a really cool experience last night doing that. It was like so much fun. But I'm going back. I'm going to also go and check the London one, and you don't get billed till after you have completed your tour. And the other thing that you can do while you're there is it has a little camera icon in the center of the screen at the bottom. And anytime you want to take a picture, just get your mouse and click, and it takes the picture for you. I took over 80 photographs, and I can now go back into my sessions and pull up my past sessions and go in, and I can actually download. I can go through the photographs, pick out the ones I want, and download them. So it's kind of cool. So you have a photographic collection that you can add as well. There were a couple of times I had to take screenshots, because when I clicked on the camera thing, it didn't take the overlay that he had up, and one of them was the map of Melbourne that had all the dots with all the trees on it, and it took just a picture of whatever was behind that. It didn't take a picture of what he had up on the screen, so I did a quick screenshot of that one. And there was another couple I did that on as well. But he was but yeah, it was very interesting. Great stories about the different graphic artists that he follows. We went to one place. He said, this is what this used to look like probably around the time that you were here, and it was a parking lot. And then he showed it what it looked like today, and it was a cafe made out of shipping containers. And they had they had the seating area there, and it's just a small parking area. It had probably, I think that one had like 10 to 20 parking spaces in it. And it was down this little laneway, and not a lot of space. And they had put these shipping containers in there and made this cafe out of it. And so you walk into this fenced area, and you've got the seating tables there, and there's the cafe inside the shipping container. And shipping containers make great stores. In New Zealand, in Christchurch, they have the Restart Mall. And it was actually only meant to be a temporary mall, but became such a tourist attraction that they've left it. And the Restart Mall was one that they erected out of shipping containers, made the whole thing out of shipping containers, after the earthquake that they had a few years ago. that destroyed a lot of the central business district, and so they built up this mall with these shipping containers and turned them into shops and everything, shops and cafes and all that sort of stuff. And it was only meant to be temporary, but it became such an attraction that they've actually left it there. So you can actually go and visit this entire shopping mall made of shipping containers. It's an outdoor mall. It's awesome. I've yet to go experience it. I've seen lots of photographs of it and heard of people that have gone down there and they've given me their feedback on it. But yeah, so this cafe was made out of shipping containers. And then we went to this other one, and he was telling me the story about this place was done with bluestone, which is an old rock that they used to use to construct things in Melbourne back in the 1800s. And he was telling me that this place had been built, I want to say 1850s, might have been 1870s. And it was constructed out of bluestone as stables. And I said, what is it today? And he turns around and says, it's an internet cafe. But they've still got the original structure, and inside you still have some of the original woodwork, stonework, and that sort of thing in there as well. We went past some cafes that used to be like furniture stores, and you can still see the wheels on the ceiling that they used to use to help move furniture around the stores. You went into other places, and one of them was like used to be a printing press for a newspaper, and you go in there and there'd still be stuff up on the walls, or part of the layout of the thing would include original fittings from that original print shop and everything else. So it's kind of cool how they've kept the history in some of these places and made it into a modern use. So taking 1800 stables and turning them into an internet cafe. I thought that was that's brilliant. I like that. So it was a great tour, and he also does, Tristan he belongs to a company where they actually do walking tours around the Melbourne Central Business District, kind of like what we did, but you're actually doing them in person. And so it was really cool, and I can't wait to get down there. I've been wanting to go back to Melbourne for years, and I can't wait to get back to Melbourne and go and book some tours with this tour company, because I was very impressed with Tristan and his knowledge and just the whole walking tour. It was completely off. He made so many changes in there because it was just me, and I'd been there before, so he was showing me some of the changes that had taken place, and the graffiti art down there was incredible, and some of it was commissioned by the city to be done. They actually commissioned pieces to help people get back out again after all of the global pause stuff, and but yeah, it was interesting to see what's changed, what's still the same, and places I recognize. Like we started off in front of the post office. Well, it's no longer the post office, but it still has the clock tower. It's now a department store. So it was like, okay. But it's this beautiful building. It's absolutely gorgeous. So some of the things they've kept the facades of, and they've changed what's on the inside. In some places they've kept some of the inside stuff and recreated it for whatever it is that they needed and that sort of thing. So we didn't actually go into anything. We just stood at the doorway and looked in and that sort of stuff. But some of the food places were kind of interesting. There's one that has rainbow colored cheese, and I was like, okay. But yeah, and some places were packed because we were in there. It was around lunch. It was close to lunchtime, so you could see where the popular places were, and people were waiting for tables to get in there and that sort of thing. But there were so many eating choices, and he was telling me his favorite places to go for different meals and why it was his favorite place to go, and what he found with this. And there was this one place that was right near the beginning. We went to that he showed me the doorway to, and you go in and the eating area is there. But then there's a leatherwork place over here. There's another workshop area over here, and they've got it's different industries are in there, and you can buy like leather goods and that are handmade there on the premises. And what else was in there? And I said, they got an old Singer sewing machine there. He says, oh yeah, they use the old Singer sewing machines for their tables. It's so cool. The old pedal Singer machines that they would now use as tables in the cafe area. But they had left a lot of the original stuff in there and just made their business work around what was there. So it was a really good tour. Highly recommend doing these. I've only done the one. We've got 2 more coming up, and I'm going to go back to the London one and see if the Spy one is available, because I'd really like to do that one. That one takes you to the underground and the Spy network and all that sort of thing. So anyway, that's it from me for today. So hope you had a super fantastic, sparkling, magical Monday. Go try something new. I've got links down there to the different explores I've either done or got booked. And I've got the times that I'm booked, so you can't get in on the same one with me with the crime debauchery because it's a one-on-one session. But I'm interested to see how that works with the whole shopping thing. So I can tell you that on Thursday. Yes, we can do that on Thursday. But anyway, go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling evening, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow for Tune Up Tuesday. Hey, Conera.